This is Tracy Randall, and I'm here with Bob Wright, the founder of the American Anti-Cancer Institute, and we're excited about tonight's interview. If you've been following us along on these live Facebook interviews, you've learned some incredible things. And welcome to tonight's show, Bob.
Thank you very much. Once again, a pleasure to be here.
I know it is, and for those of you who don't know Bob Wright, although you should, because we are broadcasting live from the American Anti-Cancer Institute Facebook page, let me just say that Bob Wright is the founder. The American Anti-Cancer Institute is a nonprofit that educates on the natural treatment and prevention of disease, not just cancer, but we do have an incredible book that Bob's written, Killing Cancer, Not People. Bob, this is our 8th interview here live on Facebook, and we have so far reached well over 35,000 people with this information that we know is life-changing and in some instances life-saving. I know that's exciting for you.
It is, and we just need to find a way to increase that to 35 million people so everyone can have a better understanding of all sickness and disease, especially cancer, what works for it and what doesn't. People need to know the truth, and that's what we're all about at the American Anti-Cancer Institute.
I know it is, and I know we're excited about tonight's interview as people are starting to join us and see us here live. We are asking, while people are joining us tonight, before we get deep into the interview, we are asking that everyone support the AACI by doing a couple of things. The first thing we'd like you to do is to go to the Facebook page and like it. Click on like and then share it with others to like it. We need to increase the number of likes. We've been doing that through these interviews, but that's so important. And that way you will receive notifications about when we go live. We'd also like you to go to getmadaboutcancer.com and subscribe to our monthly newsletter. It's free. And also, we'll be uploading these videos so that they're available to everyone on YouTube as well. So make sure you go to getmadaboutcancer.com and just take, take a look at that newsletter and subscribe to that. Bob, in the last few interviews and every time I talk with you, we definitely want to talk about your 5 steps to living healthy. We've talked about the right water, and of course, we all know that that's the Kangen and water by Enagic. We've talked about the right supplement. And if you would, just real briefly, remind us what the other 3 steps are and why this is so important to the listening audience.
Well, we need the right food, too, to begin with, because what we eat today is not really food. And we simply don't know that. We don't know that what's in the boxes and packages on our store shelves is basically chemicals and former food that is now dead. We need live food, living food. If you can't throw it in the dirt and watch it grow, don't eat it. Oversimplification, but the idea is we need to eat, live food. And that makes all the difference in the world to keep us healthy and to heal us when we're not. Then we need to detox our body. Many people go through life never doing any form of detox. And with all the chemicals and radiation and other things that we're subjected to in this world in all different forms, our bodies are loaded with toxins and pathogens. And we need to get rid of them. So we need to do down to the cellular level detoxification. And the last thing, if we're able, we need to exercise. Exercise is so good. It helps to build up muscles, keep strong bones. I know as we get older, that's very important to us. And it helps to oxygenate our cells and move fluids and nutrients in and out of our cells. So these are all things that are imperative for good living, period, whether you have cancer or not.
Absolutely. And, I did see this recently, and what we're going to talk about, I think, this is really important, but it really hit home with me. What I read is that the 2 worst times to figure out what to do if you were diagnosed with cancer are 1, after you've just been diagnosed, and 2, when you're healthy. And unfortunately, that seems to be when, people do make that decision. So tell us what your thoughts are about that.
Well, when you're healthy, you don't know what your situation is going to be. So you don't want to make any decisions or formulate any plans until something comes along that you have to deal with. But when you're healthy, you find the way to stay healthy, and hopefully you never have to make that decision. But the problem really lies in people who've just been diagnosed. And they feel like they've been hit in the face with a hammer because it is so startling. The C word, cancer, is something that just the sound of it related to an individual changes their lives almost instantaneously. So we have to make sure that we don't panic, first of all, because if you're seeing a traditional oncologist, he or she is wrapped up in the only care they can give, and that's chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And they're going to recommend all of those to you, not necessarily in those orders, but maybe.
We have just a little freeze. Bob will come back. So everyone be patient. We've got some great information tonight from Bob about, here he comes.
I guess did we get cut off there?
That's all right. Yes, you said, they can recommend the only thing that they know. And you mentioned those three things. Yes.
I'm sorry. I was cut off from you. What'd you say last?
Well, we did hear what you said about what the doctor is going to do and the difficulty, of making a decision after someone has been diagnosed. And, I think that what the person that I was quoting from was trying to say is that, most people, when they're healthy, they don't like to think about what can happen. And so they, don't make any decisions about their health, and they just kind of fall into the trap of, uh-oh, here we go. And, most people when they're healthy don't like to think about what would they do if they were diagnosed. Would they opt to do something natural, or would they opt to, go down the more conventional route? And I just think that that's something that's so important, because no matter, what we do in the world we live in, statistically, we need to be aware of these things. Don't you agree?
I really do agree. And it is incredibly important that we do think about how we live prior to that diagnosis. Hopefully it doesn't come to you.
Right. We seem to be having some issues with our technology tonight, but we are going to push through. And I know Bob got some, here he comes.
We just need to think about how not to have to make that decision. And we have to seek the truth about it if and when we do. And like I said, don't panic. Don't make any snap decisions. Even when your oncologist says, we have to do surgery today. We have to, start the chemo tomorrow. No, that cancer's probably been growing in your body for 8 years. You don't have to make a 30-second or even a 30-day decision necessarily, although in some rare cases that might be different.
I love that you said that. Most people, when they get the diagnosis, it seems like there's an immediate knee-jerk reaction. I know that even myself, having some experience in this field, I know that when I was diagnosed with the melanoma on my back, although my body had actually stopped it from growing into, my lymphatic system, the doctor still suggested chemo. And I just remember thinking, wow, what if I didn't have this knowledge? What would I do? And it is quite frightening.
Yeah, and what you would do if you don't have this knowledge is what you don't have to pay for. And what the doctor says is your only solutions, the big three, and surgery, chemo, and radiation. Everything you do naturally is going to cost you money. I mean, it doesn't cost nearly as much in the final analysis that the other three do, but insurance pays for that. Insurance will not pay for these natural things. And we traditionally get people every day coming to us saying, I've exhausted all my insurance. I'm still sicker than a dog. What do I do? I can't even afford to buy any supplements. So it's really reached beyond the veil at that point to, can we help them? Of course, we always try to help them as long as they have an immune system intact. But people will go towards and gravitate towards what their doctor tells them to do and what insurance will pay for. Yes. And so it's a major problem, but it's real. We need to face it.
We do. And, sometimes I do feel like people are just hiding their heads in the sand when it comes to the epidemic of cancer. I don't know how they're doing it like today, but they are. And so how likely is it that we will be diagnosed with cancer in our lifetime, Bob? Tell us the facts.
Well, it's really incredible that we believe today, we know it because it's factual, that 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women will get cancer or have some type of cancer experience in their lives. And that's a lot when you think about it. It's almost 1 in 2 for everyone. So Tracy, you and I are sitting here, and one of us, and sadly and unfortunately, you've had your diagnosis, but you're well today. So we have to understand this, and understand also that the number one cause.
All right, he got frozen on the number one cause.
Oh, the number one cause of death for children 14 and under by disease is cancer. And this should be unheard of. Our kids shouldn't be getting cancer. And we covered a little bit of this in another episode that we did, is that this is largely dependent too on what the mother does during pregnancy. Absolutely. And so it's not an epidemic because it's not a true disease, but it's prevalent everywhere. I mean, when 1 in 2 people are getting cancer, something is wrong, and we need to face the facts about what is wrong. And our community of oncologists and allopathic medicine will not face that fact. And it's the reason why we're treating a so-called disease that is caused by different forms of chemicals and radiation with chemicals and radiation. It makes no sense to the thinking man.
It doesn't. And, the most common treatment that we receive today when we do get the diagnosis, you've already shared the big 3: surgery, chemo, and radiation. You talk extensively about that in your book, Killing Cancer, Not People. And it's actually chapter 2. I'm going to quote from the book. It says, quote, "What you probably don't know is that they have no possibility of healing your cancer," end quote. And you go on to say, quote, "They actually cause cancer." Would you please elaborate that on that tonight, Bob?
It's really kind of counterintuitive for us, after being told everything we've been told about this disease and about what the only healing mechanisms are through conventional means. It's really an enigma that it happens, the way that it does, and it really makes no sense to, like I said, the common man again. And I get off on tangents because I'm pretty mad right now, Tracy, and I'm angry about what's happening in the cancer field and the cancer world today. And I have a tendency to yell and scream a little bit and get upset when I see people are being told the things that they're being told. They're not told the truth about cancer, but these things do cause cancer. It's proven. You need to read all the recent studies. I can cite them in a writing if somebody wants to see those. But it's proven now that radiation causes and spreads cancer. Chemotherapy causes and spreads cancer. Surgery spreads cancer. So you can say that it causes cancer at the same time. We don't want to face that. We don't want to face that allopathic medicine tells us what to do, and then someone comes along and tells them, no, don't do that. And these are the reasons. But we delivered the truth here, and that's it. It's been proven that you can't kill the cancer stem cells. The studies have been done. When they're trying to shrink a tumor in half, they think when it starts to shrink that the patient's going to be healed. But the symptom of cancer is the tumor. It's only the symptom. It's not necessarily the cancer itself. And if you were to bisect a tumor, you would discover that. Daughter cells are destroyed by chemo and radiation. Stem cells, or the mother cells, are not, and they migrate to different parts of the body. So when you hear someone had their chemo and they're well now, and then a month later, 6 months later, a year later, they have cancer again, they don't have it again. It never left them. It's always been there, and it hides, because you can't give someone enough chemo or enough radiation to kill all the cancer in their body. If you did, you would kill the patient. It simply doesn't work that way, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time that we realize that.
Absolutely. Did you freeze?
Was I too mad there?
No, we love your passion, Bob. We knew that tonight's interview, we wanted to work up to it because we knew that tonight's interview is really, a difficult one, really, for me as well. I get very angry when I think about it, when I think about, the children in the chemo wards and what they're doing to our children. And, another thing that we really have to think about as parents especially is, if our child is diagnosed with cancer and they are under 18, we have no choice. No choice. Do you want to share information about that?
No choice at all. Actually, the state owns your child until the child is 18 years old. We've all read about and heard the stories of parents who just took their children and went to Mexico or somewhere else because they knew that was their child's only hope. Now, we're not saying that people never heal after chemo or radiation, because on some of the rare types of cancer where there's no migration, where it just sits in one place and it's very small, sometimes that will work. And so we understand that. But as far as our children are concerned, there is no choice.
Oh, he'll be back.
Yeah, our children are basically offered up now to the medical industry. And we've seen the bone marrow transplants that rarely ever work. I'd be more inclined to do a stem cell transplant of my own stem cells before I would, they've got to destroy your bone marrow before they put new bone marrow in there. That's your immune system. Folks, that's your immune system. And it has to be strong. If it's not strong, you don't have any chance. You don't have any hope of healing. So we need to go about healing the immune system, healing the epigenetic pathways of the body. That's what destroys and heals the entire body, the immune system. That's what works. You don't put the immune system on its lips with all of these chemicals and radiation and expect yourself to heal, because it rarely works. We already know that only 2.1% of people who undergo chemotherapy are alive in 5 years after diagnosis. True. It's in the Journal of Oncology. So we need to get the facts, and we need to know the truth, and we need to make wise decisions based upon that.
I agree so much. And, that's what I love so much about your book, Bob. These quick interviews that we do are really to just pique the interest of people, to help them see that, the truth about what they need to know in order to make decisions about their lives. And, I am so passionate about the preventive side. And that's what your 5-step protocol is about. When people understand that once they are diagnosed with cancer, then, no matter which way it goes, whether they choose conventional or they choose something more natural, it is an investment in time, energy, and money. Both solutions are both, paths. And so really it's the prevention that is so key. And that's, to me, why this book is so hugely important and why every home should have one. Bob, you talked about the immune system, and in your book, you also state, and I know that you've stated it here, but I want to make it really clear that the human immune system is our only defense against disease and cancer. How do we know if our immune system is strong enough? Is there any way that we can tell?
Well, actually, there's many, many ways that we can tell. And if we look at our lifestyles and we look at how we live and how we feel. I mean, how do you feel? Well, I've got this ache here, this pain here. I have only one bowel movement every 3 or 4 days. I'm always sick. I get the flu 3 times a year. I get a cold 3 or 4 times a year. These are the signs, folks. You don't need an active tumor on the top of your skin to understand that your immune system is in trouble. I mean, the mothers need to breastfeed the babies. They need to have vaginal births instead of cesareans. When your kids are young, you need to throw them out in the dirt and let them play. That helps build the immune system. But we're constantly bombarded with radiation and chemicals. We are toxic. Folks, if you're not detoxing your body, you're toxic. You're in trouble. You may not feel like you're in trouble today, but you are. And so we need to get on that pathway of detoxification to begin with, and then eating the right foods, taking the right supplements, the right water, and the right exercise. But we need to understand that how we feel today, and that doesn't matter if you're 16 years old or 60 years old. You know how you feel. You know you've got a pain over here that shouldn't be there. And so we inherently know if there's something wrong with us or we're not feeling well. We can sense that. And so we have to understand that our immune system is directly involved, and it has been either incapacitated or it has been hurt to the point where things are going awry in our bodies. So I think we're smart enough to figure that out.
And, hopefully we're smart enough not to just run to a doctor and get a pill for it, that magic bullet, but to really do something, well, your 5-step protocol, because what all you're talking about in your 5-step protocol is boosting and building the immune system. What does it take? And I know that, when we're sharing this interview tonight, it's right before the holidays. It's right before people are going to just kind of go out there and do some crazy things and then try to make it right in January. And my prayer and desire for people is that I just pray that they would take control on a daily basis, live in moderation with some of those things, and overall be healthy. And I know that's your prayer for people as well.
Yes, indeed it is. And I've probably said this before on the show here, but what I have a tendency to tell people is that it doesn't matter what you do on Saturday. It's the rest of the week that really counts. And that's a way of stating that you're going to fall off the wagon once in a while. You're going to do something that's wrong regarding the intake of food. But you need to get back on the wagon after that. And if you want to go out, once a month and have a burger and a shake and fries, if you're doing things right, that's probably not going to hurt you, as long as you're eating the right foods and eating the right supplements, drinking the right water, and detox, all these other things that we talk about all the time, then you're going to be okay. So my mother used to say everything in moderation. She would smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day and drink 6 pots of coffee. And in the other hand, she'd have store-bought synthetic vitamins. And she thought that would balance everything out, everything in moderation. And she was even poisoning herself with the store-bought vitamins. And so she was destined to live to be 100 years old, but she did not because of her lifestyle. So don't do everything in moderation, because that is, I know that's a good phrase now, and it has a tendency to balance us mentally and emotionally. But we need to do the right things most of the time. And if you're going to do something wrong, do it very few times and do that in moderation.
I agree, Bob. And whenever I do something that's outside of my normal day-to-day healthy eating, I'll take extra nutrition or drink more of the Kangen water, or do something to offset that meal that I had that I know isn't exactly perfect, and I just think that's so important. And I think having that gauge of, is my immune system strong enough? And, so many parents are dealing with children with allergies. When a child has an allergy, it's an immune system issue. When an adult has arthritis or some sort of chronic pain, agreed, it's an immune system issue. And down the road, as our immune system weakens, and as we add more drugs on top of it, what happens is we are just going down that slippery slope.
Yeah, and it is an immune system situation. And these autoimmune diseases, not really diseases, but the autoimmune things that we're seeing, like lupus and fibromyalgia and rheumatoid arthritis, are all referred to as...
He'll be back.
The only way conventional medicine treats these autoimmunes is by giving you drugs that suppress your immune system again. It makes no sense. These things are food diseases. You got arthritis, you got a food disease. You got fibromyalgia, you got a food disease and a lack of minerals and vitamins disease. And so these things are treatable every single day. You got diabetes, it's treatable today without drugs, type 2 adult onset. And because you need to eat the right things, and you need to do what we know how to do now that will help chase that sugar out of your system, you might say, and get the pancreas performing the way it's supposed to again. There are remedies, folks, because God has given these to us. I mean, heaven forbid, what did we do before we had drugs 100 years ago? We didn't all die. Now we're dying wholesale because we have pharmaceuticals that we're taking all the time.
Right. Well, I was telling you that my mom just recently came to live with me in September, and she came to me, just full of drugs, 5 to 7 drugs that she was taking, and it was all food related. And just very slowly, we began to change her eating habits and add the nutritional product that you endorse. And she is now, with doctor's approval, come off 5 of 7 of those medications. We're seeing a turnaround with her mind. We've done nothing spectacularly different except change those eating habits. And, you know, I just hope that on tonight's interview that we can just prick someone's ears to say, wow, I need to know this. And I know that many times those people that are watching live through the American Anti-Cancer Institute Facebook page, we're preaching to the choir. Most of them already know this. So I'm going to ask them to share this, to comment, to tag people that they love and care about, because sometimes they may be sharing the information, but it takes someone like Bob Wright and the AACI to really have someone listen. And with that being said, I caught my mom reading your book on the sofa a couple of nights ago, and as she was reading it, she was saying, wow, this makes sense. I believe that he has a point here. And I was so excited about that because I've been trying to share it with my mom now for, you know, a decade.
Yeah, sometimes it does take that clunk over the head to get people going. And we all know that, you know, the Bible says a prophet's not known in his own community. And I'm not saying that I or anyone else is a prophet, but at the same time, we have to understand that family sometimes is the hardest to convince. I mean, you grow up with your family and they say, well, he's doing what now? He's saying what now? This little guy that, you know, was crashing his bike, you know, not that many years ago. And so we need to still try to get this word across to our friends and relatives and hope that they will listen. And you can gift them that book. It may sit on their coffee table for a month or two. Eventually they're going to say, I like the cover on that book. I wonder what's inside of it. Or something will happen to stimulate them opening that book. And no credit to me, credit to God. He wrote the book. He just did it in my hand. But there's some good stuff in there. There's stuff that will help people day in and day out, and you don't have to have cancer to benefit from this book.
No, not at all. And thank you so much for your passion and for following God's prompting to write the book, Bob. It has definitely changed the lives of thousands and thousands of homes. And I believe, we here at the AACI believe that every household should have this book. And you also were in Atlanta in April, and I want to mention that before we leave, that we did a health summit called Get Mad About Cancer. And the MAD stands for Make a Decision. Make a decision that cancer won't touch you or the ones you love. We can do that. And in that 2-day health summit, we did put it together on a video link, and it's available as well as your book on the www.getmadaboutcancer.com. Share with them a little bit about, you know, why that health summit might be something they'd like to take a look at as well.
Well, first of all, I'm mad about cancer too, but my MAD has a little different definition than yours, although you have a good one. And I'm angry, and I think it's a righteous anger, though, so I think that it's justified. But when we did that summit down there, we covered so much ground and so many different products and disseminated so much great information that's entirely across the board regarding being healthy and what you can do. So there are things in there that you're not going to see in my book. You probably won't see it on our website. You might not see it on our Facebook page. There's things in there that everyone needs to know, and they're straightforward and simple things, but they're things we need to do to stay healthy and heal when we're not.
Well, and I love it because we've made it affordable too. We've got it on special for $24.99, and of course your book is just $25. And so for $50, they can have an arsenal of resources that will impact their health. And you know, as you were sharing that, I thought, you know what? There's really no excuse in the world we live in today not to be healthy. We have everything at our fingertips, really. It's just making that decision. Is it more important to go on that, you know, family vacation and spend thousands of dollars, or is it more important to live healthy and, you know, enjoy a lifestyle that is, you know, gonna be one that will carry us on, for generations. And, I just think that so many times we have our priorities so mixed up, but there's just no excuse. I can't imagine, Bob. I'm 58 years old in a couple of weeks, and I can't imagine waking up in the morning in pain. I can't imagine having headaches or migraines or even a cold. And when I think about what people are going to work with, when I think about what people are trying to raise a family and how they feel, it just seems to me that it's just a no-brainer that we need to change some priorities.
Yeah, and we think that was the exception. People waking up and not feeling well a lot, almost every day for some people, and having aches and pains all over the place. They know something's not right, and this is not the exception anymore, folks. It used to be, but it's not any longer. We have people living lives today, some with constant pain. Some people cannot get rid of their migraine headaches because they don't know what to do, because the doctors only give them drugs. Drugs aren't going to heal that situation, but we know what does. We know that if you do the right things, you have an ability to come off of those drugs eventually and get back to doing the proper things that help your body heal. I firmly believe that there is something out there for every malady known to man. It doesn't matter what we call it, what sickness or disease. There are natural things out there, natural plants and different types of things that will help to bring healing to the human body. God put them there, and he put them there for a reason. And if we could just sit down and eat all the plants all day long, and the plants that have every nutrient that our bodies need in different plants, of course, we'd be a lot healthier than we are today.
We surely would. And I hope tonight's information about the big three has, caused a little bit of a stir in the hearts of some people. I pray that we'll get some shares and some people that comment that this interview got them to think about, what's going on in the world today. And Bob, we so appreciate you and everything that you do to get this information out. Folks, go get the book. Go get the book, Killing Cancer Not People. Don't wait. It's too important. It would be the best holiday gift you buy yourself and your family, that gift of health. We love you, Bob. Is there anything you'd like to close with about, anything we covered tonight before we say goodnight?
Well, if we have another half hour, I'll get going again. It's real straightforward and easy for me, but I think we've covered a lot today. And our desire was to cover the big three, and we did that. And we covered a lot of other ground too, and I'm delighted that we were able to do that. So I just hope that everyone will pay attention, that this will spur them on to at least seek out possibilities that go beyond what they see today in conventional medicine. May help you dramatically.
Absolutely. And before we close, I do want to remind people that we do have a December issue of The Right Stuff coming out December 1st. If you are not a part of the AACI monthly newsletter, go ahead and go to getmadaboutcancer.com and sign up for the American Anti-Cancer Institute The Right Stuff newsletter. It is absolutely free. And while you're there, take a look at the video link promo for the summit and get that book. Thank you again, Bob, for everything you do. We love you so much.
Well, thank you, Tracy and Carol. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. And thanks for those of you who joined us live tonight as well. We expect you to share. We appreciate all of you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. We know you're out there spreading information about nutrition and water and detoxification and all of the things that Bob and I have been interviewing about over the past couple of weeks. So we love you all. Good night, everybody.